Luxury real estate is booming right around the world, with key destinations attracting high net worth investors and new trends shaping buyer behaviour. Navigating the market, though, can take a lot of insight and strategy, especially when it comes to a global landscape. Let's head to New York now. Loy Carlos is the founder of Global Wealth at Nest Seekers International. Great to see you. Thanks for dropping by, Ticker.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, now, first, talk. I mean, you're in Midtown Manhattan. When I think about some of the hottest real estate in the world, I think of Manhattan as well. What's the luxury real estate market like right now?
The luxury real estate market is still booming in Manhattan. We're pleased, to observe that while activity hasn't been as much, but I think that's goes well for every pocket of the world. Prices have continued to soar. So, for instance, there's a duplex in Billionaires Row that just sold for 115 million.
Wow.
Which is the third largest sale ever in New York City, and we continue to see townhouses, for instance, that are selling at 65 million, at $45 million. But also, we're seeing record prices in smaller areas of Manhattan, including the West Village, that are really posting record prices.
It's amazing we've seen Millionaires Row become Billionaires Row. You look at some of the really huge tech barons out there, and one day we could be talking about Trillionaires Row as well, no doubt. Talk to us about the rest of the world, though. New York, obviously, is always one of those places. New York, London, very expensive. People want to live there. Paris as well. What's happening in the rest of the world when it comes to luxury real estate?
Absolutely. I think there are a few things that have happened that have changed the dynamics of real estate. One obviously is the pandemic, which allowed people to basically rethink where they would want to spend the rest of their lives, with their children.
It's interesting, isn't it? The places that you mention are also the places that are booming with tourists post-pandemic as well. So wherever people seem to want to visit, they also seem to like the idea of living as well. What trends do you think are emerging in buyer behaviour and preference? And how much has Xi Jinping's clampdown on millionaires and billionaires removing money out of China had an impact on people either trying to get away as quickly as possible and buying into some of these luxury destinations, or is the money drying up?
I think it's been a little bit more difficult to get money out of different countries, and it's not just China. There are countries all over that also are trying to ensure that the money stays within the different countries. So certainly that has had an effect. But I think what's had more of an effect is the political instability. So, for instance, the war in Ukraine, is influential. The different elections that are happening in whether in the U.S. And all over the world, it's also been a source of concern, for people. They would like to see who takes over first, to see what types of financial and economic policies they institute, but also. There has been more of a more cautious view of investments. So while it's been difficult to move things for instance, in China, there's also been a desire to be able to invest that in different parts of the world. Perhaps it's not, $100 million or $50 million in one shot. But we see a lot of, for instance, people from Asia purchasing in New York City at, $10, $20 million, $5 million, either as just investments or some, a pied-à-terre or as places for their children, especially when they're going to school like NYU.
And just quickly, how can investors navigate the challenges in the global market? Because you have interest rates that have been high, starting to move around in some countries as well as the inflation numbers start to fall. But there are concerns about oil. There are geopolitical concerns, as you mentioned, the Middle East and Ukraine too, and right through Europe. Where's it going? Is property the safe bet that it has been? And is it true that if you need to ask the price, you can't afford it?
Well, most people who have the money probably would have to ask the price in any case. Even the billionaires of billionaires always ask how much it is. It's just a matter of how much larger the budget is. But I think the main points that people need to understand is that they have to have the experts in the local market. So, for instance, Global Wealth at Nest Seekers, we're not a franchise. We actually have people in the Middle East, people in Europe who are local experts, and they can navigate the tax ramifications, the citizenship requirements, the residency requirements. It's very, very important. So it's not just purchasing real estate and not being able to use it. A lot of these people are really looking to actually move in different places, and real estate is a good indicator also of how economies work. These days, where people move is usually
Yeah.
where also industries and technology goes. And we're finding that being able to sort of have the balance of life is now as more important, if not as important as being able to be just simply productive. So while cities like London and New York City are always going to be a haven for people who want to succeed, there are now different places around the world where people could find that they could be just as successful and enjoy
Yeah.
life the way they would want in a place that they would want to stay in.
All right, we'll leave it there, Loy Carlos. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much for explaining it to us.
Thank you so much.
You are watching Ticker. More after this.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.